He's on Twitter. A foul is called. Jack Mitchell is triggered on Twitter.com. Jack Mitchell is triggered on Twitter.com. The JPJ.
I'm glad you found
he
it.
just got cream.
Yeah.
Does the refs not know? Bad calls affect both teams. Jack Mitchell is triggered on Twitter.com.
This might be my favorite of our
It's
Christmas
so
carols.
good. Triggered on Twitter.com.
Because if anything, it reminds us that James Palmer Jr. once was a Nebraska basketball. He will always be entrenched in Nebraska ball history because of this song.
And that
We'll
Paul
never
McCartney
forget
is
it.
immensely overrated.
And what is?
Paul McCartney.
Oh, it is.
It's a horrible song.
It is a bad song.
No, I'm fine with making that permanent. I have no problem with that. And we can give Ham as a water of meats a rest.
Give it a break.
It's misunderstood anyway. I think I've made that very clear. So and I do like the JPJ memory because he's one of the last players I can remember enjoying in a Nebraska uniform of any sport, not leaving me empty-handed and leaving the program.
And as we can tell already, Jack has decided to go all out. Is that a Wyoming Cowboys hat you're wearing?
Yep. Switching teams.
All
Josh
right,
Allen,
there it
baby.
is. We
That
have
was it.
broken him, folks. He's broken. Broken Jack Mitchell, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, man.
No, I bought this when I went hiking in Wyoming because I thought the logo was cool and I didn't have any brown hats, I guess.
I wonder why.
Needed a brown hat.
I mean, most people, when they have brown hats, they wear like a big cowboy hat or something, or, you know.
That's true. Now I'm going to get a Padres hat too. I'm going to have like a whole brown section of my closet.
Gross.
Isn't that the underwear drawer?
Cool.
I own no brown clothing. I have no brown clothing of any sort.
This is kind of a brown shirt too.
And unless you
Yeah,
want to
it
consider
is.
khaki. Khaki is a
Brown
form
khaki,
of
and I'm
a
wearing
white-
khaki cargos.
Oh, there it is.
You
Cargo
are just-
shorts. Oh,
Everything I'm wearing is brown.
Jack is browned out.
you are brown.
It's a brown out.
Oh, he's frozen. It's
Brown-
just like don't
Brown
show
out around the world.
So we've been obviously spending the first 45-ish minutes of the show talking about Wandale Robinson.
I'm so sad. Oh.
I mean,
The gif of the kid laughing, going into crying. That's what just happened.
how much of this can be traced back to the beginning, to some of the things that Scott Frost was saying? We just spent a segment on it. You know, just we're seeing some tweets from some former Huskers saying, and they thought we were the problem, ha ha ha, and kind of the divide that we had when he first stepped on campus. You know, the Riley guys versus the Frost guys. I mean, how much of that do you think plays in here? Even though Wandale wasn't a Riley guy, but you do wonder if, you know, the seeds of dissension were already there in the locker room when he got here.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I take him at his word when it sounds like his mom is going through some real health issues, and that could certainly. I've got no reason to believe that reason isn't, you know, very significant in his mind for making a decision like this. And so, you know, it's hard to surmise beyond that when you just don't know for sure. But you get a sense that, you know, things probably weren't. If things were incredibly rosy here, you maybe still make that work. I don't know. So it's hard to know what's in his head right now, to be honest.
Yeah, Jack, I'm happy you said that because I got a couple of tweets over the first, you know, few segments of the show, you know, basically kind of pushing back with the idea that this is a big picture issue for the program. Tony says, I don't understand the issue here. His mother was/is sick, and this pandemic isn't ending anytime soon. This is not indicative of anything other than he's in Nebraska, far away from his family, and he wants to be closer from home. Another user, Husker Laker 1, said one had mental health problems, I believe talking about JD, and the other's mother has medical problems. So those somehow is a reflection on how the program operates, huh? And while I, you know, not to quote Sip, but we do got to be careful here. I also agree with you that if things were rosier around the program, I wonder if we'd be having this conversation about him leaving literally today. I just tend to guess no, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. It's real, and I get a little squeamish about, you know, sitting here and speculating on the veracity of, you know, his mother's sickness. I think that's that's a kind of a crappy thing to do, because it's got to be gut wrenching to go through all that and not be able to go home. And And so I really have a hard time sitting back here and trying to speculate on reasons why that really isn't the case. But, you know, I think regardless of whether it is or not, specifically with Wan'Dale Robinson, it's pretty clear that there are still issues. So it doesn't really change the conversation all that much. And now you start to wonder, we talked before about what there is to look forward to for this team, you know, year to year. And he was one of the few things that was on that list. I got to be honest, you know, the way that he was there, he was never really a disappointment, I don't think, for the most part during his short career here. And when you saw a few extreme effort plays during the season where he just said, okay, that guy's the best player on the field, it was often him. So I just keep thinking about next year and just trying to find some kind of a silver lining, some kind of a level of hope that things could get better next year. This takes a big chunk out of that for me.
Well, for those who are tired of any crises happening in the locker room, let's do something that does take him directly at his word. He told Adam Rittenberg today that he also wants to be in a program that gives him a better shot of showcasing his NFL talents. That would seem to be a pretty fair indictment of this offense, which we thought was going to be a pretty good showcase for players like him to showcase his talents for the next level. And if he's feeling like he can't do that here, that is also a major problem.
Yeah, if he said that, then I'm not surprised either by that. You know, the weird thing is, guys, as he leaves, like, what position do you think of him as? I still predominantly think of him as a running back.
That's because that's what he was mostly used as.
That's what he was. And to some degree, I understand what he's saying about getting ready in the NFL. He's playing a role, just a kind of a role that isn't really, it just would be an odd role to make an NFL resume on, right? This kind of part-time running back, part-time short yardage receiver. Like, I don't know. I still never quite felt like Nebraska maximized his strengths in the offense. They just needed him to be everything, and he was willing to do that. But in the process of doing that, I think you didn't ever maximize what he was able to do best, because he had to be a Swiss Army knife, and that probably goes a little bit to what he's saying.
Yeah, and that's, I think, what makes this transfer more unique than others that we have seen, right? Like, it wasn't a depth chart issue. He was at the top of the depth chart at times with multiple positions, running back and at wide receiver. They did try to use him. His overall production is probably not as high as I think a lot of us would have expected it to be, but how much of that is on him versus how much of it is on the quarterback or the offense in general, just not being able to give him the ball in space. I think that's the thing. You know, you look back at his career, I think, Jack, that's the thing that surprises me the most coming in. I thought that he would have a lot of room to run and to make plays. And you know, I always thought of him as kind of like a poor man's Rondale Moore, and he just never was able to get to that spot at all. And I think that, I mean, some of it might be his own skill, but I think a lot of it was on the offense itself.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I'll answer your question with a question. If you were designing now a role for Wan'Dale, and maybe you answered it there with comparing him to Rondale Moore, Josh, but like, what kind of a role would you design for him to maximize his talents and potentially get him into the NFL?
See, that's what it would have been. It would have been, and I'm pulling up Rondale Moore's stats right now. And look, that first year, he was absolutely ridiculous. He had over 1,200 yards receiving on 114 catches. He had, I think, 21 carries for 213 yards. I mean, so he had a lot of production that year. So I thought that it would be that. So what's that? Almost 7 to 1 catch to run ratio. Right. That's what I expected. Not, let me pull up Wan'Dale's.
You're talking about a utility slot receiver is what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you see it all the time, especially, when I watch Rams games, we use the jet sweep all the time. Sometimes with our X receiver, not just our slot receiver. We use it with our X receiver, but somebody like that who can take an inside carry, who can, shift into the backfield if necessary. But most of the time, he's one of those utility knife, do it all type players that you can just kind of move around a little bit everywhere and make big plays. Put him on special teams. He can make big plays.
And meanwhile, Wan'Dale had his first year, he had 2 to 1 rushes to catches, 88 to 40. And then this year he had 46 rushes, 51 catches. So, I mean, he was basically 1-to-1.
Right.
That wasn't the type of player I didn't think.
But guys, how many of his catches were those ones? And listen, not to beat a dead horse here, but how many of his catches were those horizontal passes where they're so dependent? I mean, you talked about being in space, Josh. Those plays, so many of them are designed right to be in tight areas where one block is made to spring it. And if it's not, you're not in any space. Those plays were not this concept of in space. You're right, Josh. He just wasn't in space because of the type of passing plays for the most part that were designed for him. They were these kind of pass runs that this offense really got heavy on during the last 2 years.
Or him being over the middle and just getting stuck.
Right. Yeah. Because unfortunately, a position like that doesn't work. A utility knife doesn't work unless the other tools are also doing their job.
Right.
And the utility knife comes in and just adds another dimension. Well, unfortunately, his ability to add that other dimension was diminished by the fact that there were a lot of other tools around him that weren't able to do their job for a variety of different reasons.
Yeah. I mean, imagine how different if you have a bona fide deep threat in the Nebraska offense that's utilized,
right?
About how different, as you know, kind of as a slot receiver, John, that would have made him, but that was never there. I mean, I'm not even exaggerating. That was never ever there. I mean, you can even go back to when Stanley Morgan was there for J.D. Spielman. It was a different world for him. There was some of that happening, I think, 2 years ago with J.D. Spielman.
Sure, yeah, I agree. All right, we've buried the lead here, Josh.
Oh, the bad takes.
Yeah. So you want Tim Miles back? Is that how I'm supposed to read that?
What the hell, Jack?
You people are all the worst. Everyone on Twitter last night, I wanted to fight.
All right, what do you mean?
Wait a minute, you always want to fight on Twitter.
That's true. You literally are like, I want to fight somebody today.
I've explained to you this to you so many times. What do we really need to go? I mean, I think I probably did on your show like 3 weeks ago.
I know. I'm still confused. I don't know what you mean.
My concern at the time, I was one of the, as you know, I was one of the very last people to come around, if I ever did, to getting rid of Tim Miles as the head coach.
Stop the steal. That's what you said. Stop the steal of Tim Miles.
I never said that. Oh, geez, somebody screenshot this. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. So what I said is, no matter who you get in this next head coaching position. And by the way, Fred Hoiberg would have been my first choice. And this is really not saying a whole lot about Fred, because once they made the decision, I was all in on Hoiberg. I thought it was great. I thought it was a real surprise and a great job by Bill Moose to do it. But I always said with Miles, I said, if you make this change, you are going to go through a darker period of multiple years than you've even been in the last few years. And that is going to have costs there are going to be costs to the program. And it's going to be more difficult to ever get to the level that you want to be, because you're going to go through such a dark period in terms of completely restocking, and it looks like so far, I mean, I don't know what to tell you guys. I look like I'm balls on accurate with what I said so far. So I don't quite understand the blowback at this point.
A year and a half. I mean, it's been a year and a half.
Here's the problem. You go winless this year in the Big Ten, or you get one win. What do you think the chances? What do you think the roster retention is going into next year?
I think the retention is going to be higher than you're expecting.
I do too.
Especially, I hope you guys are right. We'll see. We will see if I'm wrong about that. And the roster retention is high, and they turn it around next year, and I'll be thrilled. You guys know how thrilled I'll be to say I was wrong. But did the coaching change really get made so you could go another 4 years without contending for even getting in the NCAA tournament? I mean, I think we all, right? The comments were, hey, this can be turned around quick. This was turned around quick at Iowa State. I doubted that. And so far, that's what it's looked like. And I think the key for this program is stability, is stability. And it's going to take years to get that. And you're going to need players who are long-term parts of this program to compete in the Big Ten. And I just had some doubts about kind of this building by transfer philosophy again.
But didn't Miles also rely on some transfers? I mean, most of his best players were transfers.
Well, yeah, you had some of them. I think probably not as extensively as
in my mind right away.
Yeah.
As Hoiberg was. I don't think it's quite as extensive, but nonetheless, I also just think there's something about having it. And by the way, this isn't saying Nebraska needs to make a change. That's the last thing I'm saying right now. And it doesn't really matter because they made the decision, but I had so many people kill me for that at the time. And, I mean, again, last night was what I was imagining when I said those things.
But didn't they show the fight that you were lamenting after the game last night? Like they showed fight, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, but they're going to, Josh, we are talking about a year, the potential of, 2 years between Big Ten wins. 2 years between, that's in.
I thought that Tim Miles had like such an obvious ceiling that I would, but you and I we're much different in terms of how we want our programs to be built, where I'm okay with moving on if you know that this guy can't get it done. And I in that moment, and I guess still now you're pining for it, that you want a little bit more stability, even if the ceiling might be lower on that, I guess. I
think this floor is lower than you would have had he stayed. Do you disagree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd say that this floor is worse.
But I think there are going to be real implications to bottoming out for multiple years.
You think if Tim Miles were still here that they –
I don't know if they lose.
Maybe they have a couple of more wins.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But let's face it.
I think they're better.
I think we do have to look at this year and say, man, the timing on this is terrible because the Big Ten got really, really good. Miles was the victim of bad timing with the conference being really, really down. His second to last year, and this year the Big Ten has completely flipped the script. And so in both cases, it's bad timing, but you can't always make your judgment based on what the rest of your conference is doing. You got to do what's best for you.
Listen, guys, I want nothing more than to look back at this conversation and say, what an idiot I was. What a stupid, stupid take. Nebraska has turned it around. Boy, year 2 to year 3, lots of growth. All the players stuck around. They really have become a force in the Big Ten here. I hope that happens. I don't see that happening right now. I hope I'm dead wrong.
Do you think, I guess, what are your expectations then for the program long-term under Hoiberg?
What am I don't quite know what do I think will happen?
Yeah, what do you think is going to happen?
I think there's going to be roster turnover this year. I think that's going to make it difficult again next year. I guess I would assume if they go winless or get 1 or 2 Big Ten wins this year, you end up next year with a roster that's similar but maybe depleted, and bring in the 5-star and hopefully you have incremental success up to 4 or 5 wins in the Big Ten, and on the outside of the NIT looking in. That's my expectation from what I've seen this year, and maybe just my own sense of pessimism about the program anyway. But
so do we really
am I missing something from this year that you guys are seeing that I'm not? What's going on here? What are you guys?
You're not missing anything. It's just, again, I think the timing is really poor. I do think the talent upgrade is there. I think this is a better team.
They don't make shots. They
don't make shots. And I will say, and I'll continue to ride this horse, I still don't think Teddy Allen's a great fit in this system. I get in some ways why you want a guy like that because he can score a lot, but I think sometimes the bad can outweigh the good. If you want one specific example, and I don't mean to pick on Teddy, I just don't think he fits what this system needs for it to run. How
do you still have this system that is based so much on shooting 3-pointers and you don't have a 3-point shooter?
It's a great question, but I think Mayan obviously isn't up to snuff as based on what they were expecting. Let's see. Well, really, no one's shooting the ball well for
They don't have a 3-point shooter. It's crazy, and they run an offense that takes just tons of threes. I don't see that system. It goes, Jack John, to what we were talking about with you and Sip that time, right? Mm-hmm. Do you adjust your system at some point for the conference and for the talent that you've got. And I don't necessarily think Hoiberg should do that, but it still doesn't feel like you have got the right guys in this system. Almost everyone, I would say, maybe with the exception of McGowan's, has been pretty underwhelming to me based on what I heard and what I expected in this system and what Hoiberg's done with guys like this in the past.
All right. Well, I got one piece of good news for you.
Yeah, I need something.
That is it. I'm
What?
your alarm clock reminding you that there's a national championship game in college football tonight. There you go.
Everybody needs to be Jack's alarm clock. We need multiple alarms. This is a guy who gets up at 2:00 in the morning.
I am Jack's alarm clock.
Nice.
So do him a favor and remind him there's a national championship game that starts at 7:00 tonight.
Go Buckeyes! Big Ten
7:15.
pride! Yay!
Okay, real quick before you go, because I asked a poll question today. Are you cheering for Ohio State and why? Is it because they're Nebraska's friends for life? Is it conference cheering?
Because it'll make the Huskers look better.
Is it just because you hate Alabama? Which
I
one?
don't know.
Jack doesn't seem to like he cares about it at all.
It's mainly because I'm tired of Alabama, I guess.
Okay. All right,
I don't know.
that's fine.
Josh, I'm kind of intrigued and like Josh Fields. I don't know why, but
Justin?
like that semifinal game really got me kind of intrigued with that team. I don't know. Whatever. It's mainly because of boredom with Alabama. It's got nothing to do with the conference or brotherhood for life. You know what I think about that kind
I
of
am
garbage.
Jack's complete lack of enthusiasm.
Hey, I'll tell you what. You guys make fun of me for not being an NFL fan. The NFL games were great this weekend. I
think
really
tonight's
enjoyed them.
game will be great. Just and you're probably going to see at least a dozen guys on the field tonight who'll be in the NFL next year.
Former Wyoming great Josh Allen had an amazing day on Saturday.
Yeah,
It'll get me ready for my fantasy draft next year.
Oh God.
Check out the rookies.
He's in his third year. Oh, you're talking about the college
tonight.
football game.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I thought you were talking about Josh Allen.
Yeah, no.
Cool.
All right. Well, everyone remind Jack at 7:00 tonight that
tweet
there's a
at him.
game, so he
jeez.
doesn't forget.
That'll make 2 terrible nights on Twitter. Dude, Kent Pavelka liked the tweet where Chris Heddy was like giving me the or what was a gift that Heddy sent me? He sent the Jonah Hill, Jonah Hill doing this.
Yeah.
And Pavelka liked it. Of course, not even mean.
He's the ambassador of the program. Of course, he has to like
Yeah.
something where anyone's being negative.
Yeah.
I thought
negative.
Pavelka was gonna weep when they fired Miles. What
But then they hired Fred Hoiberg.
Yeah, you got to learn to move on.
Yeah.
Got to shuck and jive in
Get
this
on.
business.
I would not be good. John Bishop knows this all too well. I probably would not be a good ambassador for the program or the network. Probably should.
Fed up.
That's probably true.
You wouldn't say that? You're
That's
fed up?
probably true.
You are fed up right now, though.
I am. I don't know. Listen. Mark put a reminder on your calendar. Come back January 11th, 2022. I'll be on your show, and you guys can tell me what an idiot I was a year ago for saying what I was about the Nebraska basketball.
Technically, January 11th next year would be a Tuesday, so you would join us on January 10th.
Okay, mark it for January 10th. Then that's fine. Get
How would
ready.
you like me to quote it? Because we have a thing we now call the list, where we're keeping track of all the takes. So how would you like me to phrase your opinion?
Bad opinion.
So it's you expect a large amount of roster turnover.
Large roster turnover and minimal improvement from this current year to next year in Nebraska basketball.
I am putting it down right now. You have made the list.
Listen,
You're not going to be allowed to celebrate in December. We're not going to allow you to celebrate when Nebraska beats Creighton.
Come on, now, stop being ridiculous.
If on January 10th next year Nebraska's on Joe Lenardi's bracketology and they're up in the top half of the standings, you can open up the phones, you can have callers bash me for being an idiot. I'd love it. I will enjoy the pain.
I will enjoy it too.
We know you enjoy the pain.
I do enjoy the pain.
We talked about that last week.
We did.
Yeah,
and let's
remember?
not go there again?
The Adidas ball gag.
Let's not go there again.
I love all these people taking screenshots of Jack Mitchell, a future stupid idiot. Oh, that is so good.
What?
Those are Stibbs' graphics, not mine.
Why did I wear my Wyoming hat today? Oh my gosh, I'm going to hear a lot about that.
Oh.
Have a great Monday and get some rest, because you'll want, when you get woke up at 7 with all of the tweets reminding you there's a game, you're going to want to stay up for the whole thing.
That's true.
I'm gonna stay. I don't go to bed. I go to bed later than you do, Bishop.
Probably true.
What time?
I average 11.
No,
Yeah.
I still beat you.
By like 5 minutes.
10.
John's an 11. Oh, 11, 10 guy.
10 minutes.
Stay up and watch Night Court or something. Three's Company.
No, I hated Three's Company.
Happy days.
I
I've
always knew when I was a kid going to sleep, I always knew I was up really late because I could hear the 10-11 news end and MASH begin, the MASH theme song begin. And so I was like, oh man, I'm up late tonight. I can hear MASH.
For me, that show was ER. Like I remember ER, and it was like, all right, time to start getting ready for bed. My parents loved ER.
I can't think
Clooney days.
Can't think of a show. You know, I just remember getting to stay up late to watch halftime highlights on Monday Night Football, and I felt like I was winning. Oh boy, I'm up until 9:30. Look at me. All right, have a great week. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye, Jack.
Bye, Jack.
There he goes, the Wyoming Cowboy.
Wow, and hater of Nebraska basketball. This is very sad. Bring back Miles. Bring back Miles. Disgusting.
About time he figures it out. This week's Zone Deal is from M. Vince Nail Spa.
Ooh.
Get a $50 voucher for only $25. M. Vince Nail Spa is Omaha's newest luxury nail spa, offering an array of manicures, pedicures, facials, and more.
Nice.
Their job is to ensure every individual leaving that salon looks and feels their best. So it's a $50 voucher for M. Vince Nail Spa.
Nailed it.
Thank you.
Nailed it. Get it?
Spa.
$50 voucher for only $25 on sale this Friday at 9 a.m. at 1620thezone.com.